It's the DORK podcast. It's the DORK podcast. Rich Keefe. It's the DORK podcast. Hashtag. It's the hashtag DORK podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. I'm your host, Rich Keefe. Joining me this week is none other than Ryan Davey. Davey, how are you?
Coming in hot.
Yes, sir. Why not? What a great day to be alive, because we both saw the Deadpool movie.
Yes.
Very, very good film. Let's start out thusly. Let's do non-spoilers, because you know what? There may be just fans of the Hashtag Dork that I want to hear what these guys have to say, have not seen the film just yet. So we'll go non-spoilers, then we'll get into spoilers afterwards. How's that?
All right, I dig it.
All right, I say we begin first off just general thoughts. I think if you like Deadpool, if you know anything about Deadpool and you're a fan, and he doesn't turn you off, like all the one-liners, the breaking of the fourth wall, if you just like Deadpool, you'll really like the movie, because to me, it was very true to the character. Like, for all the reasons we hated Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine is why you would love this movie. It's very violent. It's very funny. There's some sex scenes in there. It's a rated R comic book movie. Yeah, oh, boy howdy. But it's a rated R comic book movie, and I thought it was done very well. And so I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was. We'll get into more of that later, but I would say if you are kind of on the fence about it, definitely give it a look.
Right. How would you rate the overall comedy of it? Because I feel like I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they were asking me about it, and the person didn't like Ryan Reynolds, just is not a fan of Ryan Reynolds. And I was like, well, then you probably won't like the movie, because it's a lot. It's like Van Wilder kind of turned up and more.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
It was I saw the movie with my wife, and she was kind of she's excited that I'm excited, kind of thing.
Yeah.
She likes the fact that I like to go see movies and I'm excited about it, and I like to tell her all about it.
Yeah.
And at the end, she was kind of like, so basically that was Van Wilder in a superhero costume. I was like,
yes.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah,
you like that kind of. I guess the big word they use is sophomoric.
Yes.
Like, if you like, fart jokes and crude humor, then this is absolutely for you.
Which I do.
Which you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to live in a world where farts aren't funny anymore.
Exactly.
Really
Let's not take ourselves so seriously.
No, and I think the Deadpool character is not meant to be taken seriously ever.
Right.
So if you go in there thinking okay, this is going to be one gag after another, you're fine.
Yeah, because he doesn't take anything seriously. So why are we going to take him seriously? And so they do a good job with the comedy, I think. And again, if you're turned off by Ryan Reynolds and other movies he's been in, or Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, or whatever else you know him from, then
was he on that show?
Yeah, he dominated that show.
Oh,
absolutely, he crushed the crap out of that show. He was the funny guy out of the two guys. So it is a lot of that, and again, we'll get into more of it with the spoilers, but as far as the fourth wall breaking, again, if you've read any of Deadpool, he knows he's in a comic book, and so very much like that, he, in this case, knows he's in a comic book movie, and we've all seen movies where they address the camera. This does that more than any other movie.
Which is great, is he actually realizes that not only is he in a movie, but he's aware of other movies as well.
Yes.
That we've all seen, so it's not just him being like, "What do you think?" He's actually aware of the outside world as well, so
yeah.
which is kind of funny.
In fact, he's aware of some of the movies that he's been in, and so
right.
it's very meta. That's what the kids would say now.
It's very meta, but
film,
it's also very clever.
It is right. It's smart.
To do that where it's annoying, but I think the way in which they did it was very clever. And right off the bat too, this is not a spoiler, but. I read a review somewhere that if you can't make it past the opening credits, you're in the wrong movie.
Right, exactly.
And the opening credits I thought were part of the brilliance of the movie. I won't give anything away, but
no, but you're right. But be paying attention during the very beginning, and there's some laughs there. And it's nonstop. I think again Ryan Reynolds, also a lot of older Vince Vaughn movies. If you're a little bit turned off by somebody just that doesn't shut up, then you're not going to like it because that's what he does. He's nonstop. He's making fun of the person he's talking to. He's making fun of himself. He's referring a lot of references to pop culture, which is another thing right from the comic book. So I thought the comedy was good. I could see how some people may not like it, but I thought it was great. How would you rate
that?
Yeah.
If you can't deal with somebody who won't shut up for like an hour and a half, why are you even listening to this podcast?
That's a good point. You probably wouldn't like me. You wouldn't like Davey. This isn't a good. Yeah, fair enough. If you like podcasts, you might like Deadpool.
Yeah.
What about the violence in it? Like, it was going in, we knew it was a rated R comic book movie, so we were saying, all right, they should probably turn this bad boy up because we've seen a lot of violence and even some gore in these PG-13 movies, but I thought they ramped it up. And also knowing that this movie didn't cost as much money as a lot of the other big blockbuster ones. Like, it wasn't going to be too far over the top, but I thought the violence was good. I thought it fit perfectly. Like, there wasn't need for a whole lot more in my mind.
No.
I thought it was a good amount.
I think it was enough to make the point, but it wasn't so much that where you're like, come on.
Yeah, you were
you know what I mean?
Jesus
like,
Christ.
It wasn't, he wasn't, poking people's eyeballs out and like using his fingers to like move them out. It wasn't.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't hokey. I mean, it was definitely over the top, but within range of where it should be.
Yeah.
It wasn't out of this world. It wasn't like Spit on Your Grave or Evil Dead or anything like that. It was. There were a couple times where I saw some people turn away. Again, no spoilers, but there was one scene involving, what's that James Franco movie? 127
hours.
Yeah, there was a reference to that.
Yes, correct.
And
yes,
so
there
people
was.
were kind of looking away, but it was good. I was a big fan of it. Tastefully done.
Yeah,
tasteful gore.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good way of describing it. I'm sure they would love that. They could put that on one of their reviews.
Yeah, slap it down.
Put it
down.
on.
I'll be in a commercial.
Hashtag Dork said so.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and use that. I also thought they did a good job of showing off all of his different abilities, like his strengths and things like that. Because that's another complaint in a lot of comic book movies is, we've all read either the comics or whatever else, and we sort of know a lot about these characters, and then you put them on screen, and you're like the first couple of movies with Iceman. Not a great example because I know he was a younger Iceman, but you're like, he doesn't do shit. You're like, you can basically glide, fly all over the place, and they eventually got to that.
Yeah.
And there's been other movies. There's been other movies where there's examples like that too, where you're like, this guy can do a whole lot more than that. Whereas Deadpool, we know about his recovery ability. We know about him just being a ridiculous assassin, guns, swords, and I thought they did a pretty good job showcasing all of that.
Right.
I also thought that the other characters, and we'll get into again more with spoilers, but the other we've seen him in the trailer was Colossus, who I thought was pretty good in it, and the was it Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I thought both of them as his kind of sidekicks did a pretty good job, and you got to see kind of what they can do as well.
Right, and I thought it was funny that they had Colossus be kind of like this foil for him.
Yeah.
Where he's so over the top and he's like, be a good guy.
Yeah. he was pretty good, and he also ties into the X-Men world, which is great. What did you?
I didn't like that they only showed him with the armor.
Yeah,
maybe that was a choice. I don't know, but
because of all the other X-Men's, you saw him go both. So I don't know if that would be explained in a future movie or if that's just what they decided to do. I'm not sure.
I don't think he eats cereal with the armor on. I don't. But
probably not.
I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. Do you even need to eat?
Can you taste anything if you're covered in metal?
Just metallic.
Or maybe the Captain Crunch doesn't cut the roof of his mouth if he's
True.
armed up.
Yeah, maybe he can. He loves Captain Crunch. He's like, what's your problem? What do you think about it?
Who knows?
What did you think of the overall story, as far as the origin story and how they told it?
Here's the thing that I would say if there's one thing, because I don't want to be the guy who's like, yo, everything was great, go see it.
That's me. I'll play that role today. I loved it.
Okay. The one thing that I would have tweaked a little bit was the story isn't what I thought it would be in that it kind of jumps back and forth.
Yeah.
And
it's like a Tarantino movie.
Right. And what I didn't like is that essentially, I know it was featured heavily in the trailer, but that scene with him in the car and fighting the guys inside the car and all that stuff, that's the first scene of the movie. That's not a spoiler. You've seen it. If you've seen the trailer, you've seen it. So
right.
Shut up.
That's fine.
I feel like there was more to it than that, and they kind of, not for lack of a better term, shot their wad in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And then And then you're kind of like on this high, and then you go, and then it gets into the origin part of it, where you're like, there's no build up. It's like high and then down.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So the flow was a little. I mean, there's a way to Tarantino a movie where you cut it up. I thought that for me, it kind of interrupted a little bit.
Yeah. See, and I looked at it differently because I've seen a lot of comic book movies where they start off and they're not the guy that they are. And you're like, okay, here's the first half hour is the origin story. Like, oh, he was bit by a spider, or he was like this and that. And you're like, let's just kind of get to it. But you still do need to tell that story because not everybody knows it. So I actually looked at that as a positive, where movie starts, boom, he's Deadpool. And then it's, all right, how did he get to be Deadpool? And then because it is Deadpool, he can tell you, he's like, all right, well, now we're back to now. And, like, he's making kind of jokes along the way.
Right.
So I thought that
I mean, in some way that works, but like I think that maybe the first 20 minutes are like balls to the wall, and then the next half hour you're kind of waiting for him to get in a fight.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of chills out a little bit.
There's a little bit of a lull. Like I said, I mean, you come out swinging, and then just like, all right, let's take a half hour break before we get back into it.
Yeah, because they do set it off pretty high too. Like you're working at a pretty crazy clip. Also, so just Ryan Reynolds in general, how did you think he played the character? I know basically if you like him, you'll like the movie, but what did you think? Because we talked, I think, in a previous episode how he has not done very well in a lot of movies, how they've been reviewed, how they've done in the box office, which he did very well with this one here. But how did you think he played as the lead?
I mean, you can't take. I mean, for me, this movie was so much different than anything that anyone has done in the comic book world so far. So it was It was very hard for me to kind of separate, Green Lantern and Blade Trinity and
Wolverine,
the Wolverine X-Men Origins movie, and separate the two. It was good that they kind of mentioned those and kind of poked fun at them.
Yeah,
you weren't supposed to forget.
Yeah, exactly.
That those existed,
right?
And I honestly think that if you come out of that movie thinking like, Jesus Christ, like, did he ever shut the fuck up the whole movie?
Yeah.
Like, then he did his job.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are certain people who, and I think there's a certain sect of comic book fans that were looking forward to, the weeding out the people who it wasn't for.
Yeah.
And I feel like that more than any other Marvel movie, this is comic book fans saying like, no, this is ours. Like, you're not going to think this is funny, but we love it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And I think they got what they wanted. And I definitely got what I wanted, was that, some actual laughs in the theater, which is amazing.
Yeah, right. There were real laughs.
Which is great. So I think he pulled it off. I mean, I think he's just the type of person with that type of energy who's just like you said, like a Vince Vaughn who never shuts up.
Yeah, it's just nonstop, and it's good that it worked, because I've liked him in other movies, and it's just always, for whatever reason, it's not a great movie. Like, it doesn't really like hold up, or it gets reviewed poorly, or gets like I've said this before. Like, it wasn't his fault. Green Lantern was bad. Like, he did his best with that character. The story around him and everything else kind of was a real dud. So it was good to see that. It's also, it broke the record for the best opening weekend for a rated R movie. So there's like 50 Shades of Grey, I think, had it. Hangover had Hangover 2 had big numbers, and this smashed it, which is great news for all these studios to say, you know what, we can make money off of a rated R comic book, and we can make money off of a character that isn't named Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, or
something with
Superman
man in it.
Yeah, man, right, exactly. Batman is it, right, 100% right. And so that is really good, and that sort of changes the game, I think, a little bit.
No, and again, just to kind of speak to this thing, I just had a thought that, as an audience member, I mean, you are involved in the movie.
Yeah, you're like another character.
And so it's great to see too. I think they hit the nail on the head where, like, at some point every other character in the movie was annoyed with him.
That's probably
so it only
true.
makes sense that you're annoyed too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, so that's just a thought I had. But yeah, I mean, this is a big step, I think, forward for us as fans.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to see, we'll get into this later, but now you're going to start seeing some minor characters who now everyone's going to be an expert in Marvel Comics, because you're going to, now you're going to know who certain people are.
Yeah, and then
who are very minor characters.
Right, and they're not going to be afraid to take chances. Like if you have, whether it's I also think it's important is Ryan Reynolds' passion for it. Like that came across. Right. I know you've seen some of the interviews that he's done, and the director Tim Miller's done. I was watching some after I saw the movie about him, just be like they've tried to do this movie for like 11 years. Like this is one they've been putting out there for a while. Studios were like, we're good. Like this isn't going to work, and so he's just relieved that he made it. Right. Also, a couple things before we get into spoilers is, and this we all saw from the trailer, but I don't know if there's a better suit like from the comic into a movie. Like maybe one of the Batman ones are very realistic, but that's a little bit easier to do. Like this was identical, and that's one thing. It's funny because he's in the X-Men universe, who clearly do not have the same suits that they have from the comic book. His is like spot on.
Oh, it's dead on.
Yeah, so
forgive my pun, but yeah.
I sort of said change. I was going to say dead on, then I said spot on. Was what I did. Also, I would say,
go
ahead.
Went with the. I was reading an article with Rob Liefeld, the guy who invented Deadpool.
The guy who
he said he was really excited that he got to do basically what he called a Spider-Man with swords and a gun.
Yeah.
If not for only because he didn't have to draw eyes. He hated drawing eyes.
That's pretty funny.
So it was good to have a character that had like the big eyes like Spider-Man that just, he could move up and down and not have to put too much detail in. But it was amazing to me how expressive the mask was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, like you could see him like breathe in and out like at times when he was like trying to catch his breath, and you see like the mask go like in and out and his eyes were moving around. So
yeah, and you're like, he's actually talking. Like maybe they did some dubbing, but you're like, he's talking, or at least he's moving his mouth in there.
Yeah, because it did sound kind of like muffled too.
Yeah, and there's like a few jokes about that, which is pretty good. Also, last thing I would say is this is another one of those movies where if you stay through the end credits, you'll get something else. Like, I know that's always a question.
That was.
It's a nice little bonus, right? But we're so programmed now to wait to the end, and then every once in a while there's nothing, and you're like, huh? And like, what? I forget which one it was. I forget. It was recent, and I remember sitting in the theater, and like the guy who worked there came out. He's like, "You guys can go," and everyone's just like still sitting there. He's like, "There's nothing. Trust me." And we're like, "All right."
It was Avengers, Age of was it Ultron?
Yeah, maybe it was Ultron. Yeah, and everyone's sitting around just like waiting, and he's like, "You guys can go." And so
like you already saw Thanos, like you saw it right at the beginning. You have to stay till the end.
Like, damn it. And so this one does give you a little something. So I say we move on to spoilers. So sound the spoiler alarm.
Get out.
I'll have to get one. I'll have to get a spoiler alarm at some point.
Yeah,
you don't want to
have Opie make one.
If you haven't seen, that's not a bad idea. When we start doing movie reviews.
Yeah.
The Opie spoiler. All right, let's get into spoilers. Let's start with like all of the fourth wall breaking. Like I mentioned it before, how he does it, but it's a lot. Like
it's a lot.
It's like he even makes a reference to how he broke the fourth wall within a broken fourth wall, and how it was like a 60. Yeah. Like he went over the top. A lot of talking to the audience. But I'll tell you, it never like hurt the movie for me. I was always like, okay, yeah, like this is happening. It never like got old for me.
Well, if you read enough Deadpool, or even you played the video game,
yeah.
This is something that you expect.
Yeah, true.
And I warned my wife when we went. I'm like, it's not hokey. Like that's part of the whole thing.
Yeah,
is that he's very aware that he's who he is, and he's very aware that he's in a video game or a comic book or a movie, and so much so that you become part of it.
Yeah.
Like we said before. But it didn't seem, there was a lot of it, but it seemed almost necessary.
Yeah, true. Like it helped tell the story.
Yeah.
How do you think?
In the way that Deadpool would tell the story.
Yeah, exactly.
So I didn't really mind it, and after a while I just didn't really notice it anymore.
Yeah, no, that is true. Like it just sort of became part of the journey that we were on with them. As far as an origin story, we talked about how it jumped around and everything like that, but how do you think that played? Because we've seen so many comic book movies now, and whether this is straight from the comic book or not, a lot of them are. I like this one because it was a little bit different in the sense that you have either mutants in the X-Men who are just boom, that's we don't even need to come up with a thing. We're just going to make it very easy for everybody. They're born that way. You have guys like Captain America and Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. Like it's all very well defined. Hulk, Iron Man. This one is a little bit different. It's similar to Wolverine, obviously, but this is a guy who was a relatively normal guy, although he seemed to kind of have a crazy lifestyle anyway.
Right.
But they kind of like turned him into, like, they didn't know what he was really going to be. They like turned him into this, but I thought that was pretty sweet, and it's sort of I don't know, like you kind of make sense as to why the character is the way he is. Like that scene where the guy's like sense of humor is one of the things that never makes it out of here, and you're like, well, he sort of does, and then some.
Well, yeah.
He's gonna take it over the top.
Dramatic irony that we know that that's not true.
Right, but it's like you can build these. Like, you can create a mutant, like it doesn't have to be an accident and doesn't just have to be, like, he went through just like 2 years of hell to become what he is.
Right.
But
which is fine. I mean, they didn't stick to the whole thing that, he was part of the Weapon X program and, all that stuff, which is totally fine.
Well, I was wondering how they're going to do that, because isn't he technically Weapon, 9?
11.
Or 11. Yeah, he's like right around there. And like, because this is the X-Men universe, so, which can be very confusing if you think about it now, because the new X-Men movie that comes out takes place in the 80s. This takes place currently. So you're like,
there is a Stewart and McAvoy joke there, and he was like, I can't get these goddamn timelines straight.
Yeah.
Which is again being very self-aware and knowing that people are going to be like, well, what the hell? Oh,
it is classic X-Men though, and like you can almost just immerse yourself in that. You're like, these guys are going to be bouncing all around. But yeah, as far as his origin lining up with Wolverine's origin, you got to sort of figure out the timeline there. That could be a whole song and a dance.
Oh yeah. But I love all the Wolverine jokes that they were making.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That was really, yeah.
Actually, my favorite one was when he was talking about the Wham album, but right before that he said, "This is my most prized possession," and it was a shitty little action figure.
That was amazing.
It looked like him from X-Men Origins.
Yeah, it's his Deadpool guy, which is all terrible.
With the swords coming out of his arms, he looked like Baraka from Mortal Kombat.
He looked just like Baraka. That was terrible. He also talked about having he basically had to blow Wolverine or Hugh Jackman to get this movie. You're like, that's pretty well done. So I think this came as a bit of a surprise. Everybody looked at this and knowing that it was Fox, and it can be confusing, it's stupid, but there's the Marvel Studios is all the Avengers stuff, and then there's Fox, who made the terrible Fantastic Four. They've made all the very good X-Men movies, and now they made Deadpool, and you're like, all right, everybody's all about these universes now. But Deadpool, from the beginning, when we saw the trailers, it was like, this is kind of going to be standalone. Like, yeah, Colossus is in it, but it's going to be a standalone. Well, he goes to the X-Men or the Xavier Mansion. Like, he's referencing the X-Men a bunch. Yeah. It seems like he is now a part of their universe going forward, wouldn't you think?
I would think so. I mean, whether or not he chooses to be, or whether he's just using, Colossus to do his dirty work and then just be like, screw.
Right.
Which is great. And again, I thought that was great when he went up and he's like, every time I come here, it's a different house. And why every time I come here, I only see you two? It's almost like we can't afford anybody else.
He's like, we can't afford any more X-Men.
Yeah.
Like, no,
which is, I thought, there were a couple times watching the movie where it was a packed house, obviously, and I saw it in IMAX. And there were a couple times where I would go like, ha! And no one else in the theater would laugh.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I was definitely laughing out loud a few times, and it got some laugh out louds, but I was definitely more so than anybody else. I was like, all right, that's a good line.
Yeah. And I'm looking around. I'm like, right, gang? Right, gang?
Because the X-Men are a group of mutants. Forget it. They're like,
there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's like, in the history of them, there's like 50 of them. And you look at it and you're like, right? Because they're like,
it's 1986.
16-year-old kid's looking at me with his girlfriend, and he's like, shut up, old man.
He's like, we're just trying to see a movie. All right, that's fine.
Yeah. Do
you think he would work though? Let's say they do a sequel to Days of Future Past or whatever, or of Apocalypse, and say they get into 2000, and it's like a real full-on X-Men movie, and he's in it. Like, can you still have it be a normal X-Men movie and have Deadpool talking to you?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can, because those movies are so serious.
They're so serious.
They're so serious, and everything's about the end of the world, and in comes Deadpool and makes farts on Wolverine mid battle.
I was gonna say X-Men 1 opens up in the Holocaust. That's how the movie begins. You can't have Deadpool making comments. You'd be like, all right, this isn't gonna work.
And then Days of Future Past, where he's like pushing the coin through the guy's head, like the Nazi's head. You know, yeah.
And he's like, "That's gotta hurt." You're like, "No, Ted, get out of here."
You know, Ryan Reynolds bounds in, and he's like, he's like farts on
rips a
someone and
fart.
runs away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's going to be tough, but I don't. I think you're like it. The movie is so popular that and it's getting reviewed really well. It's not just like a bunch of people saw it. Like everybody seems to like it. So if you were gonna do it, and unless they do they do a sequel to X-Men Apocalypse and it takes place in the 90s, like then that's easy. Like he's not in it. But if you do another movie that takes place in this time and you don't even at least mention him, I feel like that's a miss because Fox doesn't have all the guys that Marvel Studio has. Like they can ignore Thor in a movie, for example, because they have everybody. Like in Civil War, they're probably not going to talk about him much because they've got 30 other characters to deal with.
Right.
This seems like they have to include him a little bit, or at least if Colossus is involved. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean you have to now. I mean you have to. And there's going to be a joke when the X-Men thing picks up again, and they have the other Colossus, the guy who they offered this role to in Deadpool, and he turned it down.
Yeah. Idiot.
Like you're going to have that guy show up, and then Deadpool look at him and be like, "You look different."
Yeah, exactly. There's a joke already written.
Yeah, I mean I just wrote a joke right there.
Boom.
Trademark.
Take it.
Yeah, trademarked it. I said trademark, so you can't steal it.
Can't do it now. So as for the end credit scene, he mentions that the sequel will be with Cable, which makes sense because Deadpool and Cable, or was it called Cable and Deadpool? Either way, that was a long-standing run in the comics. That one also makes a lot of sense because Cable is a time traveler, so like it's only a matter of time till Cable is involved in the X-Men movie universe too, because he's like him and like Bishop are made for it,
Yeah.
I wonder.
They're from the same time, aren't they?
I think they are, or isn't Cable like Cyclops' kid?
He's Cyclops and Jean Grey's kid.
Yeah.
Who comes back and is actually older than his father when he comes back.
Right. And they've already announced an X-Force movie, correct? And I think Cable was going to be in that. And so now you're wondering if Deadpool shows up in X-Force.
Which makes sense, you know, but at the same time they've left the door ambiguously open, which I thought was great. And the end credit thing with the whole Ferris Bueller thing, I thought was a combination of like one recent favorite movie and like one of my all-time favorite movies.
That was great.
I thought that was brilliant.
We're very well done.
And I've already seen the guy from, remember the flat top guy from what do you call it, from Avatar?
Yeah.
The bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already lobbying hard to play Cable. Like that just got announced like this week, and he's
really?
like on Twitter and Instagram being like, "Hey, I could be Cable, huh? Look at me working out."
You have to be pretty big.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get a little bigger, homie.
I think, either way, I think that leads to a whole bunch of good stories. So that would be a cool one. Whether it's just, I don't know. I think it sounds like it's going to be like a Deadpool 2, but then maybe he's also in X-Force. I don't know how it's going to work, but
who knows how this is going to work at this point? Because I think this was just a, in many senses, I think the studio saw this as kind of like a fine, like we'll make this.
Yeah, you guys keep talking about it.
Going on in February 2015, like fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead, make your stupid little movie. And now they're stuck holding holding the bag and being like, now what are you going to do?
So they also, this is interesting because, Fox Studios, again, 20th Century Fox or whatever, they had the crap bag Fantastic Four. They originally were going to have a sequel, but then that got scrapped because it was so bad nobody wanted to see it. So Deadpool, they're saying there's a chance they could get in that time slot, but that's like in the next year. And I guess the writers have started working on it, but at the same time they're like, we don't want to just like pump it out because like they're asking them for it. But so yeah, that who knows? None of this has been announced, but we'll see what they do with Deadpool 2 with X-Force. But he's definitely their guy. Like they've turned their back on Fantastic Four. They're done with that.
Oh, totally. And the amazing, I know it's Sony, but the Amazing Spider-Man series is like dead in the water now too.
Yeah.
They were going to make the Sinister Six movie, and I guess that's shelved. They're just like, no, we're good.
Ugh. Yeah, they're weird because that one I don't really get because they, like Sony and Marvel Studios, so most movies are either Marvel or 20th Century Fox, and then Spider-Man's owned by Sony, and you're like, God damn it. So they loaned him out for Civil War, and then
right. And the whole thing was that Sony needed to make so many Spider-Mans in such a short, or they would lose the license. And that's why you got Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 back to back. Because if they didn't make those movies, the rights would have reverted back to Marvel.
Right. So they had to have.
So they had to make those, and they were just, in my mind, we didn't mention them last week, but Amazing Spider-Man 2 could have been up there for worst comic book movies.
Yeah, you know what? That was one of the ones I first thought of when we stopped recording. I was like, God damn it, I hated that movie. I forgot to mention it.
But it was funny because we hated it for different reasons. It wasn't that it was bad. It was just it seemed rushed.
It seemed really rushed. And I thought Electro's not a bad villain, but I thought Jamie Foxx, I usually like Jamie Foxx, but he was terrible in that.
He was terrible. And Paul Giamatti with Rhino.
Rhino was dumb. The kid who played...
He showed up for 10 minutes, and you're like, what the hell is it? Why is this here?
Right. The kid who played
you're
Goblin.
A major character. What are you doing?
Yeah, just throw him away. The Green Goblin was bad. But they also...
I heard they were going to do another Spider-Man with Kraven the Hunter, which I thought would have been great.
That would have been sick.
But they never did it.
Yeah.
So screw it. I don't care. Let this kid who's 15, 16 give it a shot. See how he does.
You know what sort of disappeared is that Gambit movie.
Oh, that's coming.
Yeah, but I think they bumped. Remember when we did a episode on 2016 movies? I think it's already been pushed to 2017.
Which is fine. I think I know it's filming now. I know that because Channing Tatum has that stupid haircut.
Love Channing Tatum.
I know he's a dreamboat, but
he is. How great would that be? What sweet redemption it would be if Gambit and Deadpool both have great movies after X-Men Origins Wolverine tried to kill both of them off.
Yeah, they're just secondary characters in major movies, and they're like, oh, by the way, your movie really did suck because it almost blew both of us up.
You almost destroyed us. How would you compare? Let me rip through the other origin movies, the first installment in these movies, and tell me whether you think Deadpool was better or worse than. How's that sound?
Okay, ready?
Captain America.
Better.
Deadpool was better.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Hulk.
Which Hulk?
Eric Bana Hulk.
Better.
The Incredible Hulk.
Better.
Thor.
See, the Eric Bana Hulk, I think that movie gets a bad rap.
I thought it sucked.
I really do.
I know you do, because you're more artsy than I am.
Yeah, I know.
And that Ang Lee, he likes an artsy flick.
Yeah. See, I just think you whatever. But keep going.
Sorry. Thor.
Better. I'm not a big Thor guy.
How about this? Obviously, it's better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. Is it? But what about the Wolverine?
Whew. See, to me, all of these, it's such apples and oranges.
No, I mean, this is a way different movie. It's true.
It's a way different movie. I really liked the Wolverine. I thought that was good.
It was good. I don't know.
Again, it was I think it's better because, again, in Deadpool, the bad guy shows up in the first 30 seconds, and in the Wolverine, the actual bad guy is the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, you don't know what the hell's going on in that movie.
Yeah, he should have showed up way before that. But moving on.
All right, Ghost Rider.
Oh Jesus.
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
See, I thought that was better as a better movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at this. Right after I see something, if it's good, I'm it's hard to convince me anything's better than it.
Yeah, but see, the thing, the first Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, that was a goddamn good movie.
That was a very good movie. That was one that I think. Yeah.
At the time, that was, in my mind, the best superhero movie ever made.
See, I still liked X-Men, but I could understand Spider-Man.
I thought
that's a fair argument.
Spider-Man was better than the original X-Men.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Spider-Man's your favorite character too.
Yeah, but still, I thought that it was.
It was a very good movie. Yeah. Green Goblin was good. That had everything. So
Yeah.
What about? All right, so that's the first one so far you think is better than Deadpool. What about The Amazing Spider-Man?
Deadpool is better.
But see, I didn't hate The Amazing Spider-Man.
I didn't hate it, but that's just like saying what's better? No, I don't have an analogy.
Go for it. I was gonna figure that one out.
It's like saying what's better, a Wendy's double cheese Baconator or a T-bone steak.
Yeah.
Both are good.
Right, that's true. personal preference, really.
You know what I mean?
I got you. All right, let's see. What else we got? Punisher.
Which Punisher?
Thomas Jane Punisher.
Nah, that wasn't for me.
Dolph
Like
Lundgren.
I mean, the biggest problem I had with that is that Punisher should have been Deadpool. They should have made that a hard R. They should have had people getting shot in the head. You know, I mean, that should have been as gory as it came.
So
that should have been like a Tarantino movie.
You know what's crazy to me, and I think, where is it? So after we did our last episode, I had said that Punisher was rated PG-13. I think it was actually rated R when I looked it back up.
The Thomas Jane one?
I think it was.
See, in my head, I know Warzone was.
Warzone for sure was. I'm trying to find this for sure.
Because I mean.
No. But the point is, it didn't feel like an R movie at all. Because I'm with you. It was terrible. Because
he shoots like a rocket into a building, and the whole room blows up, and everyone stands up like, boy, that was inconvenient.
Just missed us. Yeah. Like, no.
I have a trickle of blood on my head. That was inconvenient.
Yeah, it says it's rated R on IMDb, but I feel like it didn't feel like an R.
It didn't feel like that at all.
No.
At all.
What about See, I don't think any of the Punishers were better than Deadpool.
No.
What about Daredevil with Ben Affleck?
Oh, God, get out. Now, Daredevil the series would give it a run for its money, but Daredevil the movie? No.
Yeah. What about Ant-Man?
I feel like Ant-Man was a means to an end. I feel like that was just, we need to make this in order for the rest of the universe to make sense, so we're just going to throw that. This is like an aside.
No, that's true.
You know, and what an opportunity. Again, I would love to see the Edgar Wright Ant-Man that was going to get made.
I know it. I know.
I'll never see it, but I need to see that movie.
Yeah. No, that's true.
You know, but
what about,
oh no.
Let's see, Blade 1.
The opening scene of Blade was pretty awesome.
I think Blade might be better. Actually, I don't know. I love Deadpool, but Blade was sick. Blade gets forgotten. Like this thing really kind of launched all these Marvel movies to get going.
I don't think people really realized at the time that was a comic book movie.
No, you're right. They definitely don't.
You know, other than like me and you and the handful of people who are listening to this, I think I think that came out. We were in like high school or something. Right?
Yeah. No, Blade came out. Yeah, 98.
Yeah, and I remember seeing it and being like, "Oh, this is pretty," and telling people like, "Oh, if you like that, you should really like get into the comics." They're like, "What comic?"
Right. They're like, "This is just a Wesley Snipes movie." Like,
yeah.
Get it?
It's like Passenger 57 with vampires. Like, no, no, it's not.
So the only one that I can think of that, without question, is better than Deadpool, and even then I kind of hesitate just because I really did enjoy it, would be Iron Man. Like, Iron Man 1 was a great movie.
Oh, yeah. Again, like the first 10 minutes of that movie.
Yeah, it's great.
Was badass.
It was really well done, and so but that's the kind of company that I think Deadpool is in, as far as just Marvel kind of single character first movies is concerned. We'll see if Doctor Strange can keep up. That comes out at the end of the year.
Watch me hold my breath for that. I'm way down on Doctor Strange.
I know you are. We also have Black Panther in 2 years and Captain Marvel in 3 years, as far as standalone. And like you said, Spider-Man maybe at some point.
Yeah, I mean, do we know who's playing Captain Marvel yet?
I think so.
People were really into that Ronda Rousey. But I don't know.
Let's see. No, maybe we don't know who it's going to be. Did they?
I don't think they've said yet.
Maybe not.
There's been a big push for her, but we'll see how the acting chops worked.
Yeah. No, yeah, that'll be interesting. Ronda Rousey is on the cover of the SI.
Oh, yeah, so and, by the way, Deadpool, don't sleep on Gina Carano. I know she's kind of been forgotten, but the first lady of women's MMA.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on her.
No, she
looked like she tanked up a little bit for this movie, but
I think she bulked up a bit, but she played Angel or Angel Dust or whatever the hell, and so she was another. I think that's another kind of crazy.
I've always been a big fan of hers. If she's listening,
yeah, she probably is.
Send me at Arvon D. Send us a tweet, will you?
There you go. T.J. Miller I thought was good too as Weasel.
He's
always funny.
He's just a funny dude.
And then the Wade Wilson's girlfriend was great. Marina, whatever. I don't understand her name is. I enjoyed her.
Doesn't matter.
How would you better sex scene or sex montage, Deadpool or Team America?
Well, I thought Deadpool had it because it was great because a lot of times when you need to move a year ahead of time, or you need to pass time in a movie,
yeah,
the montages they have of like them like buying flowers and and then it'll have like them like picking like having a picnic, so it's summer or spring, and
right.
it shows them walking and holding hot chocolate, and you can see it's snowing, so it's winter. So there's like this time passage,
right.
And that was a way better way to do it, by them just having like
sex on all the holidays,
softcore porn, sex, and being like Happy Easter,
yeah.
So like what time of year it is, and you can see like a year passing.
That was great. I thought they absolutely nailed it. And so, again, that kicks off what should be a good year for comic book movies in 2016. I think it sets a really high bar. Like, Civil War looks really good. Apocalypse looks really good. Suicide Squad looks really good. Batman v Superman is also coming out, as is Doctor Strange. But great start to the year.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the final trailer for Batman versus Superman, where it's basically all Batman.
Yeah.
I remember I sent you a text the other day. I'm like, where the hell has this been?
They should have just led with that and then left it at that.
I know. Like, they try to make – and I'm going to tell you a lot about me right now, but,
okay.
I feel like you don't lead with – unfortunately, you can't lead with Superman.
You can't. He sucks.
Because he's so boring.
He's bore you to tears.
Goddamn Boy Scout.
He's not good. And the problem is the – sort of the Christopher Nolan Batmans were very good, but then that may have ruined Man of Steel and this universe, because they were like, oh, wow, like that was so dark and people loved it. They're like, let's make Superman super dark and Man of Steel. And you're like, no, he's Superman. Like, have him flying around saving cats and stuff. Like, you don't need him to be twisting a guy's neck off at the end of the movie and destroying a city. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, I think that's what they were trying to go for, that like actually for the majority of this movie, that Superman's kind of a bad guy.
Yeah, no, true.
Which brings in the injustice aspect of the movie, that Superman could be a bad guy.
And what
if he was a bad guy? Can you imagine what a world would be like if Superman like hated us?
Well, then ultimately there'll be the dawn of justice, is what I've heard.
Which, I'm getting reports that, while everyone was very excited to see Jason Momoa as Aquaman and what's his name, the kid with the weirdest sex scene ever in Trainwreck, Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller, yeah.
As the Flash, and people were really excited about that. Now I'm reading these things that are saying that they're actually being held by LexCorp. So you only see them like through like a monitor, like a security monitor.
Oh.
And they don't that's. I feel like there was a missed opportunity there.
I think they never should have mentioned it, and it should have been like a surprise. Like when you see the movie, you're like, wow, was that the Flash? And you're like, cool. And then because you don't need anything. Batman's in it, for God's sakes. You don't need anything else.
Exactly.
So
but I feel like that Zack Miller, he likes to run his mouth a little bit.
True. Or Zack Snyder.
Is that what I say, Zack Miller? Yeah, Zack Snyder. You know what I meant.
I know exactly. This is just clearing things up for the listener. So
sorry, listener.
Putting a bow on Deadpool, excellent. I think one of the best comic book movies in years. I liked it more than Ant-Man and Ultron, which were really the only two that came out last year. I mean, besides the crap hole that Fantastic Four was. Yeah, and
like I said, I had such high expectations for Ultron that I left the theater thinking like, well, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It got the job done.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
In my mind, is worse than saying like I fucking hated it.
Yeah, no, that's.
It was like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It did its thing.
I think that Luke, and everyone I talked to was like, so what was that? Like, why did nothing really kind of come of that? Like, I thought Ultron was supposed to be like undefeatable.
No, they're
like, well.
The problem is when you have it's like a double-edged sword when you have these movies that share the same universe, because when you start planning them out too far ahead, sometimes don't they just feel like a preview for the next one?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was kind of like I felt like Ultron was like a stepping stone. Like we're all waiting for the Infinity War.
Right.
And the problem is they've hyped it up so much that now you're just like, well, let's just
It's going to have to be the greatest.
Let's get to the steak.
It's going to have to be Star Wars meets Pulp Fiction meets, Goodfellas. That's what.
Think of the budget on that movie. I mean, you have to have every single person who has ever been in a Marvel movie in those two movies.
Yeah. So they a while ago said that, where was it? Like 67 characters are going to be in the movie.
Like how? Like how are you going to do that?
I don't know. And I
Poor
tried.
Joss Whedon. And if he's listening to this right now, Joss, if you need us, we can probably. You're way smarter than me, but
Yeah.
if you need just kind of a sounding board, please.
I tried coming up with all 67 characters. I predict all of them on the sports brief. I was like,
you got to 20, and you're like, eh.
I go, no, this isn't. This. So what I did was I included like all the Avengers, obviously, but then I was like Daredevil, like Punisher, Elektra, Jessica Jones, Hellcat, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Like you're gonna have to bring all of your Netflix people in. You're gonna have to bring in all of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh my God! Guardians of the Galaxy. You're gonna bring all those people in.
You gotta bring all
the X-Men. You're gonna have to bring in.
And then like extra bros. Like you're gonna have like Wonder Man and She-Hulk and Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
Sleepwalker. It's gonna be.
I mean, if you look at the Infinity War and who shows up when, you're like, Jesus Christ. Even Civil War, like how, like they're gonna have to cut that down.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks nuts. Well, the other thing too is with Infinity War or like Infinity Gauntlet and all those comics, like it's easy to add 30 extra characters when you have the rights to the X-Men, but when you don't, you're like, yeah, crap. Like we gotta scramble around.
we're gonna have to defeat this guy who can like destroy the planet with 6 people.
Like, go get him, Iron Man,
go get him, Hawkeye,
Falcon. Oh God. Yeah, Hawkeye. I mean, Hawkeye's a better example.
I love to pieces, but I don't think you're going to be taking on Thanos in the Infinity Gauntlet.
The guy hits bullseyes, though. That's for sure.
Does he ever?
Final thoughts on Deadpool before I want to get quick thoughts on some of the other dork-related stuff that came out.
Dork-related stuff that came out.
No. I was going to say, do you have a final thought on Deadpool? I was just saying, because I loved it, but you seem to like it.
We need to come up with a rating system. I said to you today, we could rate him out of the 6 Infinity Gems. So I'd give it a 5 out of 6 Infinity Stones. That's
amazing. I think I would give it a 5.5 Infinity Gems.
Which is like the dorkiest thing I could think of. But.
So it's basically just a scale to 6.
It's a scale to 6, but that. Even then, if I gave it a 5 out of 6, a little quick math.
Yeah. That's like a 10 out of 12.
It's a 10 out of 12.
It's like that doesn't help anybody.
You're very right.
I like it.
Even then, that's a 83.33%. I don't think that's high enough.
No.
So I said to you over the phone, it's solid B+.
Yeah, B+. No, I like your scale. I think that should be the hashtag dork movie scale. How many Infinity Gems does it get? Yeah,
and which one was it missing? It was missing the Soul Gem.
That'd be a little extreme.
I'm trying to think of how dork I can get.
You're like,
with this.
God damn it. Like, did he just say he was missing the Soul Gem? Like,
Why do I even call you anymore?
Yeah. Davey's going to be taking some time off from hashtag dork.
He's had a bit of a mental break.
Now,
he's gonna go.
Here's a few things to close on. Did you see the Daredevil Season 2 trailer that just came out?
I did.
Balls. That thing was
awesome.
All Punisher, and it looked amazing.
It's awesome.
And so apparently,
let Shane from The Walking Dead go. There's your segue. Go.
The
Walking Dead. Go.
Walking Dead last night was actually very, very, very good. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. It's season whatever they're in, 6, the mid-season.
6.5 or something.
Yeah, like the mid-season startup or the second half of the season, and it was really good. Like, there's no need to spoil anything, but it's starting to lose my. Well, I don't know. I don't think I ever loved the show, but I really liked it, and I was like, there's more bad episodes than good. But
right.
this one was good. Like, stuff happened. Like, one of the big complaints with The Walking Dead is what happened this week. And you're like, well, nothing. Like, they looked for ammo, and you're like, what?
Yeah. And then like a character that you've met twice died.
Yeah,
so
and they were like, they seemed really sad. Like, I don't even remember the
like,
person's name.
And you're like, I don't really know the guy's name, but he died.
The
guy from the place, the guy who was kind of a jerk to everybody. Yeah, he died.
Yeah, he wore T-shirts sometimes. Like, you know who I'm talking about. The guy who's kind of tall but not really. You're like, yeah, that was.
Yeah.
So last night stuff happened, so I enjoyed The Walking Dead. So hopefully they continue that for the rest of the season.
Well, embarrassingly, I'm a season behind, but
I don't think it's that embarrassing. I think you're fine. Like it's the show's not as good as it was.
I stuck with it longer than most people.
Yeah, that's true. Like that's the other thing. Once you're invested this much, yeah, go ahead.
How old does Carl have to be before they can kill him off? Before it's not like a kid killing a kid in the show, which is distasteful, I know. But how old does he have to be before we just kind of wipe him out?
I don't know. I feel like they've killed kids younger than him. So I think
they killed what's her name's daughter,
Sophia.
Yeah.
So he's open season now.
I mean, how many near-death experiences can Carl have before he just finally bites it?
And so the most recent episode, he has another one, by the way.
Oh,
maybe one of the most that he's ever had. And it's starting to tie in a little bit with the comic book too. At least like what he's going to be looking like going forward. It's very much like the comic. So
nice.
Walking Dead looks like it's headed in the right direction. What about are you a Game of Thrones guy?
Absolutely a Game of Thrones guy.
Did you see the teaser?
Yes, I did. That the one that came out a couple weeks ago?
No, Sunday it came out with with all the heads.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, and I work at a boarding school. I've never really mentioned it on air, but it's made national news where we've had a outbreak of the neurovirus.
Oh no! On
campus, so school's been shut down for a couple days.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious. A lot of poop and puke.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I've been under like house arrest, self-imposed house arrest for several days. So.
Well, here's the Game of Thrones trailer. No copyright.
Are you gonna play it, or are you gonna tell me about it?
I'm playing it.
I want you to act it out if you can't play it.
I'm playing it. Nothing's happening right. So now you're walking into like a room with like all these columns, and it's like where it's like all heads.
Man who passes a sentence.
Okay.
I don't know if this is working.
Swing the
This is
sword.
great radio, by the way.
It's a podcast.
I've won every battle. But I'm losing this war.
Show them how it feels to lose what they love.
Everyone is mine to torment.
The long night is coming. And the dead come with it.
All right, so.
Oh boy. So
they're going through all these columns, and all it is heads. So what the hell was the guy's name? Where like Arya Stark was there last year, and she was like, all like the faceless men and stuff.
Yep.
So it's like just about every character that you can think of, and it's just their head like stuffed into like this like column. It's like a column full of these like heads, and so it's characters that have both died and currently living, just sort of like voiceover. So what's cool about it is the big elephant in the room is Jon Snow. Everybody thinks Jon Snow is still alive, and they show him, and you're like, oh, well, like he's talking, like you don't know what the hell to think, but like Tyrion's on there, but so's like Joffrey. Like it's pretty wild.
I saw there's Catelyn Stark, there's Joffrey.
Yes. Yeah,
so I'm watching it now. Yeah, I get it. So that's clearly in the faceless men room where they had all the faces and stuff. I'm
going to have to do like a whole refresher, because when this show's confusing enough when you're watching it, then you take like a year off and you're like, who the hell? There's so many damn characters.
When did he die?
Yeah, I don't remember this guy at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm pumped for that. So those are very dorky things that are all on the horizon.
And the other one I saw, which is speaking of dork, which we absolutely have to talk about at some point, Silicon Valley. The teaser for that came out.
Oh, I haven't seen the teaser yet, but I know that's actually the same night as Game of Thrones, I think, in April.
Yeah, it's on after Game of Thrones.
Oh, what a night that's going to be.
Oh, it's awesome. And that's one of my favorite shows on TV.
Silicon Valley, yeah.
Yeah, Silicon Valley is actually really good. So they're trying to get Pied Piper back after they got screwed.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert. So
yeah,
that should be a pretty good season.
We're caught up. All right,
we're caught up.
I think that'll do it for a exciting Deadpool edition of #Dork.
Yep, I had to run out and see it. I was excited. I dragged on Valentine's Day with my wife, which is a great Valentine's Day. She was very excited.
I was gonna say that part probably hit very close to home when he's like, "I know your boyfriend just said this is a comic book movie, but that guy just fucking gutted, like filleted him." You're like, "Yep."
And I was like, "Ha!"
See, he's in on it. We're all in on it. She's like,
"Yeah,
get me out of here." All right, I want to.
She actually enjoyed it. A casual comic book fan actually enjoyed it. So
that speaks pretty well.
Got the female stamp of approval as well.
That's a very good thing to have.
Yep.
Want to thank everybody for tuning in again for this episode. You can follow us on Twitter at Dork Podcast. I'm also at Keefe21. Davey
at Arvon D on the Twitter machine.
And you can email us at dorkpodcast@gmail.com and. Subscribe, rate, comment, all that stuff on the iTunes. We appreciate it. And Davey, I know you always want to end with a an important message to the listener.
Just check your air ducts in your house, especially in the basement.
Yeah.
Any crawl space that you'll have for any flame retardant material that could produce cancerous agents in your body. Again, I'm talking about asbestos, and be sure to neuter and spay your pets.
Oh, so a double kind of message this week.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all important. And also, we don't get a dime for this, but Ace is the place with the helpful hardware folk.
We are farmers. Dun 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 dun.
The hashtag Dork Podcast.